As one of Ireland's most recognisable and most loved broadcasters, he's been a constant friend to his listeners in good times and in bad. But yesterday broke the news that he'd finally be hanging up his headphones for good next month. Here tonight to look back on a brilliant career and to tell us why he now wants to hand over the baton, would you please welcome Joe Duffy.
The run there. That was almost the run.
Hi guys. Yes.
Welcome to the show,
Yes.
Joe. I know you love an exclusive on your own show. You gave us a wee exclusive yourself yesterday. You're leaving.
Yeah.
Why now?
Because I wanted to go on the Late Late Show. I haven't been on your show yet,
haven't been on the show?
What do I have to do? I'm leaving. Well, many reasons. I'm of an age at this stage, though I am younger than the new Pope by 135 days.
Yes.
Remember?
Okay.
And I met someone today in town, and she says to me, Joe, what do you think of the new Pope? I said, yeah, he's great. I said, doesn't he look? He said, look gorgeous, and he's very young. And I said, yeah. She said, but I'm disappointed. I said, boy, I think he's going to be my last pope. So that's as if at her funeral she's going to be counted. But anyway, I am younger than Papa Joe was younger than Papa Leo.
Okay, what do you reckon of Papa Leo?
I like him, him so far, and it's great. I just have a great respect for people with faith and devotion and belief, and it just gives people so much solace. And I'm very conscious on radio as well that a lot of people I've been talking to for the last nearly 40 years. A lot of people are listening on their own. They're not necessarily lonely, but a lot of people are lonely. And radio has that power, especially talk radio. If you're sitting on your chair, it's like a neighbour calling in without knocking on the hall door. It's like Winnie from Mrs. Brown's Boys calling and sitting in your kitchen and yapping away. And the one thing you're guaranteed with Liveline is that you'll always hear voices from all over the country. You'll hear different accents, different stories. And I always say, people say, oh, everyone has a story. Everyone, Patrick, as you well know, has 1,000 stories. And we're just so radio literate in Ireland. People they come on and they just yap away. They never, whereas you turn on the BBC and they'd be saying, can you hear me, Mr. Dimbleby, or whatever it is. But Irish people are we're so radio literate, because radio has been around for 100 years. Next year's 100 anniversary. I was there, I was only in short trousers. It's around for 100 years in Ireland. And it's such a part of our lives. When I was growing up, our radio was on a shelf. And especially made shelf, Paddy, and we'd no television, obviously, and we had this red braiding. Does anyone remember the red braiding and your mother used to put it in with thumbtacks, and she'd take the red braiding down every 2 weeks to wash it, to put around the radio, because we loved the radio, and I love radio. I love it.
This is typical Joe Duffy. You've come on and you've talked about the Pope, you've talked about the people, you've talked about the stories. This moment is about you, though. You know, stepping back. You know, you started out as a lift boy in the Metropole Hotel. You've said that it's time.
Has ups and downs.
Yeah.
I got a raise every day. I know people.
Well, you're talking about sending the lift back down again.
Yeah. It was always. I think Jack Lemmon said it for us, and Gay was always Gay was so brilliant at encouraging people. He always said, when you get the lift to the top floor, remember to send it back down again. And it's time. It's Liveline. I've been doing it now for 27 years. It's 40 years old this year. Probably one of the longest daily programmes. And new voice, new people will invigorate it again. And I don't regret a single day. I'm sure a lot of other people do, but I don't regret a single day. And I love getting the calls from people who are upset, or they feel they've been ripped off, or they've been badly treated. Now that's just the internal RTE calls, right? the calls, especially in the last few years. No, I just, and the great thing about Liveline, it's a gift, it's a privilege that you have a bit of an idea when I go into the studio where it's going to start. I have no idea where it's going to end. It could end in laughter, it could end in tears. But I know every day I come out of the studio and I kick myself. I say, why didn't I say this? Why didn't I ask this question if I got something wrong? But it's live radio, and I'm so conscious. Like, we had a woman on a few weeks ago, Patrick, and she was talking about, now she wasn't talking about the present day, she was talking about the radio and loneliness. And she said to us, I used to go once a week, I used to walk to the local post office in a rural area and post a letter to myself, so that the postman would call to my door 2 days or 3 days later. She would post it, but just with blank paper or whatever in it, a letter. So you have to, I am conscious of that. And I'm also conscious that we're clinging now, but we still are a community as a nation. Like, people, we can have, hopefully, a national conversation. You know, when we're looking for Tom the Con or whatever, and someone say, I just spotted him in Cork, and then someone would ring from Galway, oh, he was here last week. And I remember we were doing when one of the storms was tracking over Ireland, and it happened to arrive just as, you know, 1:30 or whatever, the orange status or whatever it was. And I said, will people keep us? So we got a phone call from Valencia Island to say it's just come in and it's whipping and it's the biggest storm. And then someone from Tralee phoned in and said, we can see you coming over the mountains or whatever, and you're getting this thing. And then this other woman rang in and she said, Joe, the main street is flooding at this stage, right? It's flooding, right? And I said, Margaret, where are you ringing from? And she said, at this stage, Joe, I'm ringing from the waist down. She said, because the water was... So you have that sense... You just have that sense of community, and you feel, and I always try and make a point when a caller comes on, where are you ringing from? Pardon the pun. Where are you phoning from? If I hear a dog, I always try and get the name of the dog. If I hear, as I heard someone else, there's always, when Irish people are on the phone, we had Margaret on yesterday, she's 90, she wants to start a drafts club at 90, drafts club, right? And which is magnificent. She wants to, you know, and she's busy, but she wants to start a drafts club. And she was playing drafts with her sister Peggy, right? And I could hear Peggy in the background, and I said, who wins? And Margaret said, well, I win 4 games. And Peggy said, I win 8 games, right? And I said, Peggy. And Margaret says, Joe, she won't talk to you. She doesn't like to. But she spent the whole conversation. I could hear her. Everyone could hear her on the radio. So it's such an intimate medium, such an important medium. Local radio is so absolutely so brilliant. So long may it continue. Long may it continue.
What are your highlights? What are the standout moments? You know, there's so many moments over the years.
In one sense, I feel awful because I then am negating other calls. Discovering, when we were doing a programme one day, we had a phone call from a woman called Imelda Murphy. I'll never forget her name. And she rang in from the United States of America, and she happened in one of the Magdalen laundries. And she said, I just discovered that one of my sisters, so to speak, who worked with me in the Magdalen, they worked in the Magdalen laundries, had died 6 weeks ago, and I don't want her buried in the communal plot in Glasnevin. I want Margaret to have her own individual grave with her own name and her own headstone, which is not the way it happened in a lot of the institutions. You're in a communal area, and there was names at the top, and there was nothing, just your name, no date of birth. And by the end of the programme, Margaret's 2 daughters had phoned in. Two daughters she gave birth to, when, by the way, she was in the Magdalen laundry, to say, we didn't know our mother was dead. We didn't know our mother had died 8 weeks ago.
I mean,
and
that
was jaw-dropping.
Was jaw-dropping stuff. Margaret Boland's daughter, Samantha, is actually in the audience tonight, Joe. Margaret, what does this man mean to you, Samantha?
Joe, it's so special to be here for you tonight, because you've been with us over the 3 decades that I've been talking to Joe and listening to Joe. And what you did over those decades was you effected change in Ireland, societal change in so many ways. And when we first phoned in 2003, after we'd found out live on your programme that our birth mother was dead and we weren't informed, She was continually in the institutions. She never got out. She was in for 49 years altogether, impregnated in care. Us twins are the product of one of those abuses, and then another girl 4 years later. But when we first made that call to Jo after her friend had highlighted the appalling vista of her being buried with so many other people and having had no funeral, and we had not been informed, that really, Jo, lit a spark, and that spark turned into a fire, and that fire was lit under the church and state in Ireland. That led to a massive national campaign, as you well know. That led to a number of campaigning groups being formed. It led to an apology by the then Taoiseach Enda Kenny in 2013, which was being watched by my twin sister in New York, and she sends her love to you tonight, Jo. Etta.
Jo.
And
remind, just Samantha, sorry Patrick, remind the audience what Margaret Bullen, aged 51, what she died from. That chemical that was...
She died from a little known disease called good pasture syndrome, which is a failure of the liver and kidneys based on inhalation of old-fashioned laundry chemicals over many years.
Good pasture syndrome.
Yeah.
It's shocking. 51 years of age, Margaret Bullen, God rest her.
Listening to this, Jo, your show has affected so many people. It has changed lives. It's changed this country in so many ways. How does that make you feel?
I won't, like my mother, I said it to anyone who knows live, and here Jo was going to go on about Mabel, and Mabel, my mother, had a great line. She was in Ballyfermot, down at the shops. Someone returned to Bally, who'd been away for a few years, one of our buddies, and they said, Mabel, I heard your Joseph is working in RT, what's he doing? And she said, he answers the phones. He answers the phones. And she wouldn't let me lose her. And she always used to say, you're never as good as anyone says you are, but you're never as bad as anyone said you are. But the other thing, she would have been 96 this Sunday. And when she was born, and this is how far we've come as a country. When she was born on May the 11th, 1929, when she was born, the Irish Parliament of the day was debating the abolition of workhouses, Dickensian workhouses. And by the time she died, she had a house in Ballier, she paid for it, she walked around with the deeds in her handbag when she eventually bought the house. We have come so far. And I know people say sometimes Liveline can be very negative, but we have come so far, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. And we should acknowledge it without losing the context of the housing crisis and all that carry on. And my mother lived in 19 different places before she was 19, and she's only dead 2 years. So I mean, we have as a country. That's how it makes me feel. That's just not a product of radio. It's a product of campaigners like Samantha. It's a product of politicians and people participating.
It's also a product of you, Jo. It's also a product of you, taking the call and making that choice. It really is. One of the brilliant things about the show is that it can affect huge change. It can also affect huge change in people's lives that feels like a small change. We have a couple of people in the audience here. We've Mary Conlon. Mary, you called Jo for a mystery that you needed solved. Can you tell us what that was?
Yes, it was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the Rathfarnham shopping centre and it started to rain, and I went to the boot of my car to take out my raincoat, and I discovered 14 bottles of wine, six bottles of blue, I can't remember the Villa Maria anyway, yes, and Oyster Bay, and 2 bottles of red wine.
It sounds like a good afternoon.
Yeah. So she rang the wine line.
Yes.
You were great. That wasn't your wine. Someone had made a mistake and put it in the wrong can.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know where it came from. All I was thinking. I was thinking was that it was bought on a Sunday, and I was just thinking some poor unfortunate was having a party.
Yes.
And went to his car, and there was no wine.
And there was no wine, and so
I had the wine.
And so you rang Joe, and then Joe
I
put it
rang
out there.
Joe.
And then the woman beside you, Florence Moore, you got in contact with Joe. And were you having the party, Florence?
Definitely not. I think I still have some of the wine, especially the white.
And there's one for everyone in the audience. I've never seen. You see, I only hear voices, as a fella said, but I've never seen the two of you. It's great to see you.
So what happened to the wine then,
I
Florence?
bought it on Father's Day last year because it was a bargain in Tesco. And I went over to buy it on Sunday morning, and I got the shock of my life when I gathered it into a trolley that I wasn't allowed to buy it because you couldn't sell alcohol before 12:30. I left it and I went off up to my MG club in Stepaside Golf Course, and I had a couple of good hours. And one of the guys said, where are we going to go for a drive in the afternoon? I'll drive back to get the wine in Stillorgan. And off I go. I thought it'd be waiting for me in a corner. No, I had to find it again. And then as I was going, you know the little black thing you drag after you?
Yes.
You're not allowed bring that out, madam. It'll alarm. I had to get a trolley, and a lady in an orange suit, I've never found her, helped me lift it into the trolley. And she said, I'll bring you to your car. She was over helpful. I can do things myself. But anyway.
Margaret, I need a glass of wine at this stage.
That's Florence.
That's
Florence. You've had a glass of wine.
Florence, when you were on live, you told that much quicker, by the way.
I was very anxious to get it back that time. Anyway, we go off and we cross the road in Stillorgan, and I said my car's there, silver. Okay. And we arrived at the car, and I click and the boot's open and we put it in. She put it in. I never even handled it. Yeah. Handled it. And then she said to me, I'll bring the trolley back for you. No, said I have a token in it. I want my token.
Oh, good luck.
So she put it in the wrong car?
Yes. Well, of course, I didn't know that because when I left the trolley back, I got into my car and drove home. And I was tired at this stage, and I sat back and watched a bit of a film and went out for the wine about 6 o'clock and to find my boot was empty.
For sure. And Mary sitting beside you going, you put it in the right car. She got it.
Well, you're asking about what one of the things I am proudest of is the 2 books I did, one on Children of the Rising and Children of the Troubles. And that's why, my job on Liveline is to stay neutral and try and facilitate and encourage people that if they ring in, they'll get a fair hearing. But my only, where I really lose it is violence. I really do. I remember in Ballyfermot, and Ballyfermot, brilliant place. I remember at 13, my next door neighbour being savagely beaten, and with my mother again with a sweeping brush trying to get the assailants off him. And then obviously I was in USI, I had travelled up the north an awful lot. Went around with Frey McClemens, we did the book after The Children of the Rising, The Children of the Troubles. And I remember one phrase one man used about his son who was killed in the Graham, Sean Graham's on just off the Armour Road. Remember the 5? Remember that awful number that was boasted about in the parade subsequently? And his son was killed 16. He said the bullets that killed my James have not stopped travelling. Bullets don't stop travelling. And we have to be in this country. We have to be much stronger in terms of rejecting violence. Bullets don't stop travelling. I was talking today to another person I met, Ray McGuigan, 1979, Patrick. 1979, 4 lads in their bell bottoms and their walking to the nearest town to get a bus to a disco in Monaghan to see the memories. You know, the memories. Yeah. And they're walking along, and the INLA or whoever it was had a booby trap bomb in a hay truck, and they saw the 4 lads and they mistook them for a British Army patrol, and they detonated. They killed Martin McGuigan, James Keane in 15 and 16, and Ray McGuigan was horrifically injured. Horrifically. That's 1979. This is not 400 years ago. And today, Ray, we've kept in touch, and Maggie and Molly, their dog. But Ray today is in Dundalland Hospital, and he's just had his leg amputated. And from the day of that explosion in 1979, when Pope John Paul came to Ireland, just to give you a sense of the time, Ray has been in his bed. Now, he's a brilliant mimic and great fun or whatever, but bullets don't stop travelling, and we cannot. We can just, please, words do make a difference. Don't advocate. We've had a ceasefire since 1998, and a lot of the people who played a big role in that. I have another thing about the likes of Mark Dorkin and John Hume and Seamus Mallon, who did so much work, don't get the full credit for the Good Friday Agreement. But please, no violence, no advocacy of violence. We're not going to tolerate it. We're gone from that, because bullets never stop travelling. And if you put a bullet through a kid's kneecap, even the act of it, put your hand on your own kneecap and imagine someone grabbing you in off the street for whatever they thought you did. They're judge and jury, and they put a bullet through your kneecap. That bullet will not stop travelling for the rest of your life.
That's powerful words, Joe. It really is. It really is.
And you know that.
I do. Look, we can't let you go without asking what's next. Are you interested maybe in heading to the park, the big house maybe in November? Would that be something where...
There's no way I'm moving into a smaller house. Are you joking me? For real.
What does the future hold for you?
It's not what I'm going to do. I'm trying to think about it. It's not what I'm going to do, because I don't know what I'm going to do. It's what I'm going to be, I hope. It'll be BBC. Okay, no, I'm not moving, as you can imagine. I'm going to be more active, be more mindful. That's the second B, BB. And the C is see more of my family and friends. And I love travelling around the country. So that's right. It's not what I want to do. It's what I want to try and be. And let's see what happens. I will miss it so badly. I love it. I love coming in every day. I love at 1:45, the excitement. Which I don't suffer from, thankfully. If you have a headache or what, it's gone at 1:45. Put those headphones on and you're talking to one person. And I'm so conscious that radio, again, to where we started, is that wonderful, wonderful medium. It's of an interactive radio, live interactive radio. There's no delay, but interactive radio where people can feel they're part of a conversation. They're sitting in their chair, and it's like hearing a step on the stair, as I said, the neighbour coming in without knocking on the door. And I'm very conscious that that's the power of radio, without losing the run of ourselves.
Joe, you're mentioning that the future is BBC. Can I just say the present tense tonight has been RTE, a real treat for everybody, and thank you so much for all of the hours and all of the interactions throughout this country that you have made.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much, Joe. Joe Duffy.